What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be working on a 2011 Buick Regal. On this 2011 Buick Regal, what we're going to do is replace the rear brake pads. First things first, jack it up and make sure you put the jack stands. Next, what you're going to do, release the cap from the brake cylinder, the reservoir. Next, you're going to release the lug nuts. Now we are at the brake rotors, the brake caliper, and the brake pads. We're going to release 1, 2 bolts that are size 13 millimeters to release this caliper. 13 millimeter. One, two. Now remove caliper from rotor. Put it to the side. Now we're going to take 1, 2 bolt from this brake caliper assembly, and that will be a 15 millimeter. 15. It will be very tight, so use a lot of muscle or leverage. Most of the time, to take brake pads off, you really don't have to remove this part, but on this vehicle, to remove those pads, you have to, because it's kind of stuck in there. Once you remove the bolts, you now can release this part that holds the pads, and you may remove the pads. So the pads that I'm going to be using are these Duralast, and that is the part number MKD/D1430. There you have it. before we put the pads in, we're gonna have to not press but turn the piston so that it will fit perfectly on when the new pads are on the assembly. So this is my tool kit that I will be using. We're going to be using the K1 here, and this one goes, when you tighten it clockwise, it will press in and turn the piston. This one turns counterclockwise. And then we're going to use this part here, number 1, where it's going to set in place, where while we're pressing, this will press up and this will press down. And then to fit into that piston, to turn it, we're going to use a number 7 with these 2 keys. And you will see all that being used. So right here is the piston that we're going to be turning and pressing. And I was saying number 7, well, the key goes into this spot area like so, and while it's being pressed, it's going to be turned. Now this is what the tool looks like assembled. We got the number 7, the key that goes into that piston that turn it, and then we have the number K1 and number 1 that holds into here so it can press down. So as we turn clockwise, the tool will be pressed down. As I'm turning, it presses. And you're wondering, how far do you turn? Well, pretty much all the way until you can't turn no more. And as you can see, from the beginning, you saw the distance, how much it pressed down, and this cylinder has gone further down. Now we just turn it counterclockwise to release it, and we're done with that tool. And so you're just gonna counterclockwise turn it. And release. Now I will put the new pads onto this bracket. There's 2 different pads that go on this rotor. One has these metal clips that what these are for is when the brake pad runs down to its lowest level, that will scratch against the rotor and let you know it's time to change your pads. So you'll hear a scratching noise, and that indicates that it's time, and that's what this is for. And so this will go on the back side. So as this sits this way, this will slide into this spot. Now that we have the brake pads set in the bracket, as you can see, these are the two that goes in the back, and these, the ones without, goes in the front. You will slide this in like so. Now we're going to get the two 15mm bolts and mount those in. Always hand tighten the bolts before using a tool, because you do not want to strip the bolts. Once you get it in place, go ahead and squeeze the pads into place. Now we will tighten that up, those bolts up with the 15mm. Remember to always look up the torque specs for everything you do or tighten, especially for brakes or motor parts or mechanical parts, because you do not want this to just drive down the road and loosen up on you and just fly off, or you can't brake or whatnot. Once those are torqued down, now you will put on the brake caliper. It's always good to check if these pins are well greased, and this looks like it's lubricated, goes in and out. So is the bottom. There's two pins, and you stick them back in. If they're not lubricated, get them lubricated, and there are certain lubrication that's actually for those pins. Now we're going to put the calipers on, and those are 13mm bolts that goes into place. And again, always look up the torque specs for these. Usually, most cars, they're about between 15 to 24, 27 foot-pound, but it could be different. Some may say 41 is max for torque spec, but I think hand tight is about 15 to 21 foot-pound for hand tight, but I could be wrong. But I did tell you to look it up, so. And there you have it. Now we're gonna put the wheel on. Always after a brake replacement or job, it's good to get brake cleaner and clean around the rotors, because you might get grease on it or fingerprint or whatnot. Now to put the wheel on. Again, always hand tight, or start out hand tightening the lug nuts or any bolts or nuts, because you do not want to strip the bolts or the nut. So always hand tight, just to start it out. If it feels like it doesn't go on right, then release and try again. When tightening in, star pattern. And then get your torque wrench and torque it down by specs. But always drop the wheel down to the ground to torque it. And last and not least, drop the vehicle, remove the jack stand and the jack, torque the wheels, and then you're good to go. If this video helped you out or you liked it, please like it. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. There will be more videos in the future. Thank you. After doing your brakes, check if the level is good. Once you press your brake cylinders in, your brake level should go back up if your brake pads was worn and replaced. Put the cap back on. If you need to replace or add more brake fluid to your vehicle, read the specification on your manual or on the cap. For this vehicle is DLT4 fluid, so it does not use DLT3.